Hi, we're considering the word therefore in the book of Hebrews, where it occurs about 25 or 30 times, depending on the translator's choice of words. And today we come to 5 occurrences found in chapter 4. Bear in mind that day in the scriptures often means a period of opportunity or an opportune time. Jesus said of his ministry, "I must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work." While it is day means whilst the opportunity exists. God gives moments of opportunity. He speaks, we obey, and we enter into what he is doing. Now the cosmos is in chaos and unrest. Romans 8 tells us that the whole creation groans as if in grief. This is due to the entry of something alien. That alien thing is sin and rebellion. It's like a large lump of bitumen stuck to a car tire. It throws the wheel out of balance and the whole vehicle into trouble. The alien thing was introduced by humankind's rebellion, and the resulting chaos mitigates against rest or peace. When you have a perfectly functioning, intricate machine like the famous Strasbourg astronomical clock or a pianola, it takes only one tiny thing to go wrong and the entire mechanism is thrown out. God's current work is to bring restoration to every part of his creation, beginning with us. Can there be current restfulness in the midst of this chaos and turbulence? When Israel came to the edge of her land of promise, God gave her a today opportunity to go in and possess it. They'd been miraculously released from the turmoil and chaos of Egypt, and the land God had prepared promised rest and fulfillment for them. There they'd become a testimony to the nations of God's order and peace. God spoke, they heard, but they failed to obey. He provided a portal of opportunity. He said, "See, I have set the land before you. Go in and possess the land which the Lord swore to your fathers to give them." It was God's moment of opportunity, and it was to be met with their faith and their will to obey. But their eyes were on the hazards, and they shrank back in fear and missed God's today opportunity. The writer of Hebrews takes up this idea of God's today moments. When God speaks, calling us to enter what he's prepared, moments to be seized and not lost. The writer helps us to see that God still provides these today moments where his voice is heard, and obedience to that voice provides entry to God's rest. He shows us this firstly by showing how David, long after Israel's failure, repeated the invitation, showing by the Spirit that it's still current and available now. And secondly, he also shows us that our will is involved, just as Israel's will was required. He quoted David, "Today, if you will hear his voice." And notice the present tense in the psalm. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker, for he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture and the sheep of his hand. Today, if you will hear his voice, do not harden your hearts as in the rebellion, as in the day of trial in the wilderness, when your fathers tested me. They tried me. For 40 years I was grieved with that generation and said, "It's a people who go astray in their hearts." And I said, "They shall not enter my rest." The danger we're in, as Hebrews 3 shows us, is that, like Israel, we hear but then fear, even after seeing his work in our lives and situations, and we can fail to enter what is promised. He writes, "For who were the ones who heard and rebelled? Were they not all those Moses led out of Egypt? And with whom was God angry for 40 years? Was it not with those who sinned, whose bodies fell in the wilderness? And to whom did he swear that they would never enter his rest? Was it not those who disobeyed? And so we see, says the writer to the Hebrews, that it was because of their unbelief that they were unable to enter. The reality for us is this: a rest in God remains on offer to be entered, and there are 5 therefores related to this revelation. Firstly, in verse 1, a promise remains, and therefore we must not miss it. We should fear, he says, lest we fall short of it. God's promises are for our benefit, manifestations of grace and kindness to be entered by faith, or else they'll be missed. And this remarkable offer is to enter and to enjoy restful peace in the midst of a world gone wrong. A rest that is the opposite of the anxiety that tries to capture our thoughts and lives. And then because a promise remains, an opportunity remains, as we see in verse 6. Therefore, it remains that some must enter it. And he goes on to explain that since through David, God was much later still talking about it, opportunity remains. Today, if you will hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. It's an ongoing offer, and we can't afford to pass it up. What was offered to Israel as a physical reality is a picture of what is offered to us in our age as a spiritual reality. So, a promise remains, an opportunity remains that depends on our will and willingness to hear and obey. It's ours to take up, and therefore, another therefore, we are assured in verse 9, a rest remains. The subject of the promise is God's rest or peace available through faith. The promise would be futile if the rest it offered was not now available. And so we come to the final 2 therefores of chapter 4. Since a promise remains, therefore an opportunity remains, and the subject of the promise, rest, remains, and now it's up to us to avail ourselves of it. And the last 2 therefores show us how. We see in verse 11, therefore, let us be diligent or make haste to enter. We must press in because, as the writer goes on to explain, for or because the word of God remains living and active. It is speaking now, we are assured in verse 11. And finally, help is offered. Therefore, as verse 16 calls us, and because of all of the above, let us come boldly to the throne from which grace and help flows, because we have a sympathizing high priest, one who has experienced human life, gone ahead and offers his helping hand into the rest in which he and the Father reside. We, like Israel, are tempted to look at the difficulties rather than at him. But he's already in the place he's inviting us into. We think we're going to have to deal with all those giants or those difficulties on our own, but not so. For he has, as we are assured in Colossians 3, already disarmed the principalities and powers. And it's why Paul also says, now is the acceptable time. Today is the day of salvation. God bless you as you enter his rest.